Hey, how's it going, everyone? In this video, I want to show you guys how you can make a custom script in NX in order to have it execute anything that you want, really. If you know Python or Visual Basic, you can create custom commands specific to your company. So I'm going to give you an example where NX will record what you're doing, like a macro, and then how you can make that into its own executable custom icon. I recently purchased an OLED monitor, and I would really like to very quickly make the background either black or white. White for screenshots and black to have the OLED display turn off those pixels. Now, just to give you an idea, I already have that created over here. I created my own little custom tab here called Jive Tools. And as you can see, all I have to do is just click the relevant icon. Now, these icons you will have to make. You cannot do this, without a little bit of customization, right? But, NX does have a couple of custom, simple icons you can use. So, for example, I can go ahead and say I want a white background. I'll go ahead and click that, and you can see it turns the background white. And then, of course, I'm going to have a fully background by hitting the black one there. And so this is what I'm trying to achieve with a custom icon instead of having to go to File, Preferences, Scenes, and all that other stuff. So let's see how that's done. The first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to come over here into the blue area of NX. You're going to have to right click, and then you're going to have to turn on this guy called Developer. Now, once you turn on Developer, you are met with a series of commands that look a little scary, but don't worry, it's not too bad. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and hit record. Now, first of all, what is this even going to do? Record is going to track what you're doing in the interface, and it's going to essentially write it out as code so that you can execute it again and again and again. So it's a macro. It's recording what you're doing. So for example, let's say I want to make a macro or a custom command that turns the background pink or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and hit record. And immediately it says, hey, some of the commands are not recorded, so they might not produce what you're expecting it to be. And that's okay. I've tested this extensively for background purposes and it works just fine. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Then it wants you to select where you want to throw it. So for example, I'll just throw it on my desktop like so. And it looks like it's going to be some extension here. I don't really care too much about that. And, I'll call it pink background like that. Now let's go ahead and hit OK. Now at this point, NX is recording what you're doing. So you're going to go ahead and do what you want it to do. In this case, I want the background to turn pink. So I'm going to go to File. Then I'm going to go over into Preferences. And then I'm going to go over to Scene. And once I am in here, it might take a couple of seconds to load because, it's doing some stuff in the background for you. I'm going to change this to plain, which it already is set to. Yours might not be. And then go ahead and hit that little color brick there. And, as I said, we're going to change it to pink or whatever is close. There we go. That's pretty close to pink. And then we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And now, as you can see, I have a background that is pink. I can go ahead and hit OK. And now I can say stop recording there like so. And so now the recording has stopped and we have a file that we can now use in a custom icon. So if I look over at my desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and open up my file explorer here, you can see I have pink background.cs right there. So in order to make it into a custom icon, you first have to decide where you want it. Now, I made my own little Jive Tools tab over here. So if you want to make your own tab, you're going to go and right-click on the blank space here. And then you're going to go all the way down to Customize. Now, this is where you would hit the little plus sign right here to add a new tab. I'm not going to do that since I already have my tab created. But what I do want to do is add an icon here that will allow me to switch to a pink background. So if you actually scroll a little bit further down, and unfortunately I haven't figured out a way to get it to come up through the search function. You actually have to look for it. It's not that hard. You just have to click this one here that says New Item, as you can see right there. And then in New Item, you're going to go ahead and drag this guy here that says New User Command. So go ahead and just drag that over like so, and then let go. Now you can see that it's the default user command, a little star there. So we're not done yet. We have to right click on this guy, and then you're going to go ahead and change its name. So, I'll call it pink background, right? That's what we got here. All right, and then make sure to hit the enter key to register that. I'm going to delete it. I'm not actually going to save this. I'm just showing you how it's done. And then you're going to right click on this again. Now, if you want to change its icon, you can go ahead and change it from here. So these are just some of the default ones. But I would suggest you actually make your own icons. It accepts BMP extensions, bitmap extensions. Other than that, I don't think there's any other way to get a custom icon. But once you change the icon, you can go ahead now and say, all right, well, now I want to edit its action. So I'm going to hit edit action there. And as you can see, it says, okay, well, what are you looking for? What do you want this button to do? Well, I want it to execute an action. So I'm going to hit browse. And then I can go ahead and go to my desktop. Now, at first, it doesn't show up because of the extension here. I'm just going to set it to all files there, and you can see that there's pinkbackground.cs. I can go ahead and hit OK. And now it says to enter a button message text. So, for example, I'll say, this will turn the background pink. When you hover your mouse over the icon, it'll show you that hint text, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. This is pretty good, though. We can go ahead and hit OK, like so. And now we can go ahead and close this guy out, like so. So if I move my mouse over to that little star there that represents my executable journal, you can see that the hint comes up and it says exactly what I told it to say. This will turn the background pink. So let's test it. I can go ahead and navigate over to, say, the black background, like so. And it does turn completely black. And then, of course, if I hit pink background, it should turn it completely pink, like so. Now, the real question, though, is, okay, well, I've done all of this, and how do I actually save it, though? I want to save this so that other people can use this icon. And so to save it, you actually have to save your role. And in order to save your role, you're going to go to Menu, Preferences, User Interface. And then, of course, from here, you can hit New Role, and then save your role, and then have people load that role. And every time they do that, they will get this guy here that says pink background. I figured I'd make this little tutorial for those of you that are customizing NX, or if you find something really cool online that you want to use. For example, there is a very good website, Journal NX. I think it's actually called NX Journaling, as you can see right there. You can go in here, and there are a lot of cool little scripts that people have written that you can use and make them into their own custom icon. I hope this little short tutorial helped you guys out. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Okay, I'm going to change it back to black background because that's disgusting. All right, now we're good to go.